Today we're talking about the X factor. Is it okay to stay friends with an ex?
Ooh, nice. First of all, do you think it's a gender thing? Do ladies view this differently from the way guys do?
So I don't want to generalize, but I observed that.
How do you manage the emotions, the expectations of the person that you are married to or currently dating, even though you want to sustain or keep being friends with an ex?
We need to even establish what friendship means. We see cases where people gaslight their partners to force them to be comfortable with that reality, or they minimize the concerns of their partner.
There definitely are instances where there has to be some form of relationship, some form of rapport. There are some relationships that ended by mutual consent. It wasn't a bad breakup. How do you navigate those necessary connections when you are in another relationship? Hello, everybody, and yes, you are back with us here at the Someone Had to Say It podcast. You're welcome.
Welcome.
Together. I hope you've been watching all the previous episodes. It's not just this one that you stumbled upon. If you haven't, please, after you finish this, make sure you go and catch up on all of them. How are you doing today, babe?
I'm good. How are you?
You're looking dashing today.
Thank you. How are you too?
Do we have a date after now that I'm not aware of?
Well, we could make something happen.
Okay.
Wink, wink.
All right, we'll continue the conversation after the pod. Let's not bore you with all of that. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you too?
Yeah, I'm doing well. I mean, we've been doing this for a couple of weeks now. So how would you say you've been feeling about it so far?
Excited, one, and two. I think it's been amazing us discussing and tackling the most difficult topics.
Yeah.
And like I always say, like, this is what we signed up for. You know, talking about what people would not want to talk about.
Yeah.
You know, someone had to say it.
Definitely.
You know. So it's been an exciting ride thus far. How about you?
I think for me, it's also put me in a place to be much more expressive, vulnerable about certain things. But like you said, that's basically what we signed up for. And I hope you've also been having a great time with us so far on the pod. So let's go straight to this episode. I'm sure you know what comes up next. It's the red shoebox time.
Yep.
Where we get our topic for today. I should mention at this point that if you have any suggestions, recommendations, you can drop it anywhere you connect with us. You could drop it in the comments. You could drop it on Instagram. You could drop it on TikTok, you could drop it
anywhere.
Send it via mail. You know, Someone Had to Say It official@gmail.com. Whatever it is, just connect with us one way or another. So let's see what we have.
Did you wiggle?
Okay. So let's see what we have today.
Okay. Let's see. Are you ready?
Yep.
Okay.
All right, let's go for it.
Oh, okay. Nice one. So today we're talking about the X factor.
Interesting. The music show.
Nope. Is it okay to stay friends with an ex?
Ooh, nice.
Are you ready for this
I like
one?
the topic, the X factor.
Yeah.
Is it okay? Yeah, that's a question. So are you going to answer it? Are you asking me? Or I should just
go for it?
Go for it. Okay.
Thank you. Don't worry.
Yeah. Is it okay to stay friends with an ex? First of all, do you think it's a gender thing? Like, I know some people think it's cool to be friends with their ex. So do you think it's a gender thing? Do ladies view this differently from the way guys do?
So I don't want to generalize, but I observe that for some reasons, ladies are much more inclined to suggest it. I don't know why. Maybe because we can exist with that reality, right? Where somebody that's been attracted to you or is currently attracted to you, you can just compartmentalize and say, you know what, I'll see this person as a friend.
Okay, friend zone them.
Exactly. So ladies are much more likely to suggest such. While for guys, I see that generally guys would not suggest it except they believe that there is hope or there is that possibility of, you know, them getting a chance with you. So that's what I observe. How about you?
Yeah, I mean...
Or pardon me, getting back with
with the person.
with the person.
I guess like there's a chance of
of
getting back
things,
together. Okay. Yeah. So I think for me, so of course, definitely takes two. So if a lady is fine with being friends with an ex, there most likely is a guy. Hopefully, because I mean these days things happen. But I mean there most likely is a guy who is the ex that they are being friends, and it takes two to be a friend, except it's one person that is a friend and the other person is not aware about it. And I mean, like you said, yes, I think that women are more used to having friends of the opposite sex who are attracted to them, and it's not alien to them to live in that world. So that may be one of the reasons why it will seem as though it's more common for a lady to feel like it's okay to be friends with an ex. But I believe there are guys who are friends with their exes as well. So I mean, that's basically one of the reasons why we're exploring the topic. So that introduces a new swing to it, because now in the picture, in this context, is the fact that you are now in a relationship. So how do you manage the emotions, the expectations of the person that you are married to or currently dating, even though you want to sustain or keep being friends with an ex?
That's an interesting one. I think for me, we need to even establish what friendship means. When I hear friendship, I'm hearing a relationship between two people where they are actively fanning the flame of that partnership, which means they are keeping it vibrant, they're keeping it alive. It's not an acquaintance. It's not somebody you just have to be civil with. It's somebody you actually want to do life with. And I think there's something flawed about that ideology.
Okay.
Because why do you want to do that? Not only do you want to do that, you also want to string your partner along. And we see cases where people gaslight their partners to force them to be comfortable with that reality, or they minimize the concerns of their partner. So I think that's where it's like so flawed. Because I mean, out of 8 billion people in the world, why is it this one person you want to cultivate an active friendship with? There's a difference between being cordial, being civil, which is the barest minimum, but to pursue a friendship is wrong. And like I said, now trying to get your partner to be fine with it where they otherwise, would not be. So I think we need to address it from that point of view. You also need to consider the cause for the breakup, like if the breakup was a clean and smooth one, or if it ended with a head turbulent and there was a lot of bad blood. You need to consider that. You also need to consider the context, which means maybe the person is a colleague at work. You guys go to the same church. You have like the same, you share, mutuals. You're in the same community where it's, unavoidable. I think the best you should do is to remain cordial and friends. So I don't see any merit to pursuing an active, flourishing friendship with somebody who is your ex.
But let's talk about the person you are currently in a relationship with now. So do their emotions matter?
Absolutely. Absolutely, because maintaining friendship with your ex does a disservice to the memories that the both of you shared, and also does a disservice to your future, your current, success, and even your future with your partner.
Could you explain?
So what I mean is, people pursue friendship with their ex for different reasons. For some people, it's because of deep emotional issues. Say, some people just like the drama, if we're being honest. Some people like low-key love being fought over. And this is a deep emotional issue that not everybody would be able to admit, but I see it where there's that desire to be wanted. If there's just one person in your life, this is the one person, but you just like simulating some sort of drama because if there's another person, then your wife or your husband is on the edge. You just like that constant, drama with having somebody who's been with you and somebody who is currently with you, that they've chosen to be with you. And I think if that's the space a person is in, then you have deep emotional issues that you need to solve for and you need to heal from. Some people are just lack self-awareness. They do not acknowledge how what they are doing may hurt their partner. And like I was saying, what that would translate to is that you minimize the issue and you try to gaslight your partner. So your partner now has to walk around eggshells. He now needs to prove to you that they are the bigger person or they are not jealous or they are matured. Like, your partner has no business proving such to you. And why are you elevating the past? Elevating the past compared to like your present. This person has no commitment to you. You have no future where marriage, family, love, that kind of love is concerned. So why do you want to jeopardize what you currently have going on the altar of that past? And I'm saying different things at the same time because there are elements of it that may apply to different people. Some people also have an habit, and I think it's also that human tendency to romanticize what could have been. There's also an element of it. You feel like, you just romanticize or overbloat what could have been. And actually, in reality, it could be that if you are not broken up with that person, at the time that you did, 5 years down the line, you'd have still broken up with the person. Do you get? So I don't think anybody should sacrifice their current relationship on the altar of a past relationship. That person even has no commitment to you on that level to you. It should not even be a discussion a person is like trying to have or trying to justify. Your partner's feelings, your partner's safety, emotional security matters and trumps every other thing. Another harm is that when an ex, and because sometimes we trust our intentions, we kind of also give that level of trust to the ex, which should not be. What happens is when your ex begins to notice that you are elevating them beyond what is right, then you kind of give them a power over you where your spouse is seeing that there's something that you and your ex share that they are not privy to. And that's already a slippery slope. Nobody should get there. Like, if you have to interact with your ex because you guys are colleagues or like you just have a lot of touch points, you need to give off the vibe of, look, there is nothing that happened in the past that my current partner does not know. There cannot be any iota of secrecy. But in finding the flame of friendship, there is tendency for you guys to be having moments and creating new moments that your spouse is currently not aware of. So there are just different layers of it. I don't want us to spend too much time on this, but you should not sacrifice what you have going with your partner on the altar of what has been with your ex.
Yeah, in terms of exploring the emotions of your current partner, I think in rating the relevance of it, I think the emotions of your spouse, your fiance, your whatever the case may be, is the most important emotion to be assessed in this triangle situation that you have found yourself in. Of course, regardless of, because there are actually instances where, okay, truthfully, you have moved on from that person. But it stands a potential of becoming gaslighting if you put the onus on your partner to just be fine with the situation. Because you must understand that you and this person you want to be friends with shared a moment in history. Except you are not in love with the person. You shared love, you shared affection for one another. So you don't want to gaslight your partner into feeling like, oh, they can't ask you questions as far as this friendship that you claim to have is concerned. I dare say that it's your partner that now determines the pace at which that friendship can thrive or fail. Because in a battle between the past and the future always has to win. And whatever it takes, you must give, except you feel like this is not somebody you want to spend the rest of your life with.
I think you should re-echo that part where your partner determines.
Yeah, your partner basically determines the pace at which your friendship with your ex goes. And here's what I mean. Because, there may be instances where you do still need to relate with an ex for whatever reason. There are some people who have kids together. There are some people who attend the same church. You are friends. You share the same friends and all of that. So there isn't any way you can totally cut off from the person. Or maybe indeed both of you have moved on to greater things in life and you are both cool with each other. You don't want your or say maybe, okay, for instance, practical example, you are business partners. So there's actually something bringing you in constant touch with one another. It is essential that you give your partner the ability to trust the fact that they can depend on you in that engagement. So, for instance, I heard of a story of somebody who, I think she was a lawyer, and she had to work on a case with an ex. And she told throughout the time they were working on that case, she used to tell her boyfriend that, oh, I'm going to see this person at so place. I'll be leaving by this time. When she gets there, she lets him know. When she's leaving, she lets him know. And not because he asked her to do so. And I feel like that is a very wise way to handle the situation, because the funny thing is that if her boyfriend has to ask her, it would seem controlling. Exactly, controlling, insecure. So you need to give them the form of security that without them if they ask for it, it will seem insecure. I don't know if you get what I'm saying. So the level of confidence you need to give your partner is the level of confidence that if they have, you don't want to put them in the position to ask for it. It's a touchy conversation. It's a touchy topic. So you don't ever want to put your partner in a place where they have to ask you, oh, you were with this person? And you're like, yes. What were you talking about? And like, why are you asking? You've basically destroyed the plot. Okay. And yes, you are the one with the ex situationship. So the burden of proof is on you to prove that there really is nothing going on here. And if you can achieve a level of security in your relationship where your partner can be fine with you having lunch with your ex and him or her not bothering about it, it is as a result of the trust that has been developed in securing their emotions about that relationship, not just because you expect or demand that they do so. So I wanted to ask next that are there, and I think we've already touched on this, like what are the ethical ideals that one should apply in terms of managing their relationship with their current partner and the relationship with their ex? Is it even necessary for that friendship to progress? Is it necessary for their spouse to be friends with that person? Is that a necessity?
I think that's pushing it too far, really. Because in answering that question, I imagine that a person may be considering fostering a relationship between, like, why? To what end? You know, I think it's unwise. And I see that most people who try to actually foster an active relationship with their ex is because they need that validation. So imagine if you were the one that was broken up with, you know, sometimes it can shatter your ego or your esteem, and you want to maintain friendship because you still want to feel wanted. And then there's the other part, the person who initiated the breakup may want to suggest friendship because you want to feel like a good person. You don't want to seem like the terrible person. So you want to kind of soothe, you know, the situation that you created or the drama you created by saying, you know what, I still care about you. Let's be friends. And that's just unhealthy, really. A person needs to, breakups can be hard and can really hurt from a deep place. And I think everybody has a responsibility to follow the pathway to their healing, excluding any other person, right? Outside of that ex. It's when you want to bring in that ex to soothe those feelings. And that leads to what I was saying initially, that it does a disservice to what both of you shared and your possibility for, like, your future happiness with other people. So I think it's unwise for a person to try to make their ex and their current partner friends. Like, to what end? Like, to what end? It makes no sense. I think it also points to something deeper, that you are unwilling to let that person go. Because why do you want to string somebody else along into your future? So I don't think that's something to be explored. I'm trying to think of scenarios where it may be necessary. So maybe a person and their ex are co-parenting. People who are considering exploring that reality, just know that you are creating a needless triangle. Triangle that didn't even need to see the light of day, because you've made yourself the center of attraction, and it's such a selfish thing. Do you get? Except there's like a purpose behind, like I said, co-parenting. You've made yourself the center of attraction. You are the connecting points to your past and then your present and future. Do you get? And then there's a whole thing going on there. Should I go on the co-parenting part?
Yeah, I would like to tie it with some other questions. Sure. So to this particular one, I would say that in my opinion, I feel like people who still want to be best buddies with their exes, it's a coping mechanism. So
Yeah.
it's either, like we said earlier, there you feel like there's unfinished business there, you still intend to go back there, or maybe you didn't want the breakup to
Yeah.
hurt so much, and you felt like, oh, still being having that access to them
Yeah.
still makes you emotionally connected with that person. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's some form of coping mechanism for such kind
Yeah.
of people, because at some point you just have to remove, if that's the case, you just need to remove the band-aid, face the
Yeah.
situation head on, and just know what you are dealing with.
And we even need to speak on people who are not even currently dating. And I think it's even tougher because you don't even have somebody else to lean on as per, oh, at least I have something going with a new person. And they are even much more likely to settle for that situation because it's validating, number one. You tend to get something where you are not investing anything. There's no commitment, but you are getting that emotional, support, quote and unquote. You are getting that emotional, you are being fueled emotionally, even though the both of you are not dating, and it can be a slippery slope. I believe that our emotional and mental space needs to be like a room. And at every time, like your room, your space needs to be swept clean.
Yeah.
If I, for instance, imagine I'm an unmarried person and I see a guy and his room, his mental and emotional space is rough. I'm seeing broom on one side. I'm seeing packer somewhere. I'm seeing cup, laid out somewhere, which means like the emotional baggage or the situationships or the funny scenarios, that he has going with other ladies just around that space. I'm not going to engage. I will never engage. So you don't want to be a situation where you see somebody serious, then you're not trying to tidy your room.
Yeah.
There's something wrong with that. As a guy, as a lady, once you've broken up a relationship, it can be tough, but you need to make that painful decision. Clean your room.
Yeah.
Because cleaning your room shows readiness for the next.
Yeah, there actually even needs to be that time and space when a breakup happens, where you actually, go cold turkey, cut off space, heal from the trauma, whatever it is, before you even consider any even form of platonic interaction, platonic relationship.
Because what I see people do is that when a new person comes and they're not trying to cut off contacts, it doesn't even show integrity, really.
Yeah. So I'm trying to remember the point I was trying to make earlier about how, so the question was on how to handle the ethics. I mean, the ethical thing to do is to prioritize your current relationship, make the necessary sacrifices that it requires to make it work. And if you are not able to reach an agreement with your current partner that this friendship with my ex has to exist, in spite of what we share together, I don't think it's worth the sacrifice. You just have to deal with that, specifically when you're sure. I mean, if you're married or you're sure that this is the person you want to spend the rest of your life with. And the final question I would like to ask on this is that, so there definitely are instances, and we've mentioned a few, where there has to be some form of relationship, some form of rapport. There are some relationships that ended by mutual consent. It wasn't a bad breakup. Maybe, for instance, they realized that their genotypes were not compatible, and they just had to dissolve the relationship mutually. They still have a very solid friendship. There's that. There are people who probably have a child together. You definitely have to raise that child together. There are people who share the same friends. Maybe you were in a circle of friends and you dated from within that pool. You attend the same church, you work in the same organization. How do you navigate, those necessary connections when you are in another relationship?
So I think the first thing which we've addressed is considering the pace at which your partner is comfortable with you going.
That's your current partner.
Yes, like your current partner. So it means not forcing them to step up to the level of trust that you have. You need to consider their perspective. You need to consider how they feel. You need to have that level of openness with them. Ensure everything is bare, right? Because it's an unavoidable situation. You still need to parent your child. They need to have visibility into what's happening. I also recommend that in scenarios where a person and their ex needs to be together unavoidably, it's in a neutral place. So I would recommend, for instance, when a child is involved, either you're taking the child to your space, or if all of you are meeting as a family, then it's in a neutral place, because you don't want to leave room for assumptions. You don't want to leave room for a moment of weakness, because it's not really about you. Remember, there's another person involved, and you cannot over trust their intentions, even though they may not have negative intentions or bad intentions, but things happen, right? So you don't want to put yourself in that space of vulnerability. I think another thing would be being fine with not being overly chummy and overly friendly. Civility is necessary. You need to be civil, you need to be respectful, you need to be, at least, just common sense, friendly, but you don't owe the other person that level of friendliness, because again, you guys have some history. And for some people, that fondness just never goes. I will not be comfortable with my husband being too fond of another person, especially somebody that there's been, history with. I will never be comfortable with that. And I'm never going to put my husband in that position. Do you get? Like, some people just, what's the word? They excuse it away and chalk it up to immaturity. But no, like, nobody wants to feel like their spouse has a fondness that they are not in on. Like, their spouse has a fondness of somebody that they are not in on. Like, because this is, like, you as my husband, you're my best friend. I'm supposed to be your best person, just as you are my best person. And I think when you have an understanding that marriage is about being best friends, like my favorite person, you will not diminish your concerns for this kind of issues. You will not say, oh, let me just be let me be the bigger person, let me be understanding, and minimize your concerns, right? So that's how I think we need to approach it. And another risk of being too chummy is that, like I said, there starts to be like a bubble that you and this person are in that your spouse is not in on, right? Ideal situation is that you don't even be in that scenario where there's room for that, but we know life happens, things happen. So ensure that there is no bubble that exists that your spouse, your husband or your wife or your current partner, fiance or fiance is not in on. And we need to have that level of accountability and honesty. And where we know we may be weak, because, you had serious, deep core moments with this person, you need to expose it to your spouse to say, this and this happened, and I'm being honest, so that you can hold me accountable, right? Yeah, that's what I think.
Yeah,
How about you?
that's awesome. Most likely be corroborating some of the things that you had mentioned. I think the first thing is that it's not really about your spouse not trusting you enough. Even you have to be a little, drop that ego a bit and trust yourself with this ex a little bit less.
Yeah.
So, it's because there's a way you can speak only for yourself.
Exactly.
You don't know the emotional state of that person.
Exactly.
And everybody tends to everybody tends to exaggerate their emotional states when they are having conversations with an ex. You don't want this person to know that something is paining me. So I'm good, I'm fine, and stuff like that. So it's unlikely that both of you are honest, even when you're assessing the state of your hearts with one another. You may be brutally honest with another person, but there's that need to also pop yourself up. Exactly. So you can't take their word for it. To be honest, you can only speak for yourself. And ensure that there are clear boundaries. You need to let them, as much as possible, mention your current relationship status in every interaction that you're having. Yes, you have a wife, you have a girlfriend, you have a fiance. Let it be objectively clear. Cancel any any form of doubt where that is concerned. If there are inside jokes both of you had, if you people had a song, if that song is dead and gone, you probably, anytime you hear it on radio, just act as if it does not exist. And like you all actually mentioned, if there's anything that you have shared with this person, it may be anything that you feel like if it should come up, only you and them would get it, and your current partner, as much as you can remember, just declare it. Get your partner up to speed, so that there's nothing that somebody can hold against them as information about you that they don't have. And if there's anything about you that your ex knows, your partner has to know that and more. So if there's any balancing act you need to do, make sure that your partner is up to date and even better informed about you, about your life, about your history and all of those things, you know, and let them know your states. Let them know that, oh no, this conversation that you're bringing up, I'm not going to be having it with you. The rules have to be clear cut like that. Yeah.
And they also need to know that if anything uncomfortable, if anything compromising happens, you are going to expose it to your partner.
Exactly. I mean, they don't need to know that. You need to know that. And your partner needs to know that. You don't need to be accountable to them in that.
Of course,
you're telling them so they know.
The reason why I'm saying this is that, so for instance, if two people who are exes and they are in a compromised situation, and then the following day, the both of them, like the husband and the wife, or maybe the boyfriend and the girlfriend, they now see the ex, and everybody's acting like all is fine.
Exactly.
You have just unconsciously or unintentionally told the ex that there is room for secrecy.
You have even broken the trust. You have exactly that.
You've exposed that. You've just told the person there's secrets. There are secrets in this relationship, and then more can happen. But if, for instance, the next day you people see, you people make it obvious that this my partner knows what happened. I don't know if you understand my point. Then it is clear that there is no secrecy. The next time there's a slip up, my husband, my wife, or my partner is going to know. Yeah. And I recommend that not just even for ex, even for family members, anybody, right? You need to be that protective of what you have going with your spouse.
Yeah. In fact, I should add that there are even some friends that you did not date before, but your closeness self is giving your spouse worries. Consent. You need to adjust the level of that closeness. Their concerns are valid, and you must show them proof that you can be trusted. Of course, dealing with insecurity is an entirely different thing, you know, but as much as it's within your capacity to validate trust in your partner, do absolutely everything. Even if it seems ridiculous, the burden of proof is on you to ensure that they feel secure in your relationship. And please don't get into compromising situationships with your ex for whatever reason. You know, if you have a child together, make it about that child. Be cordial with one another. You don't have to be visiting each other's, you know, family. I mean, there are several dynamics, but I'm sure you get the point. So I think we can call it a wrap at this point. Is there anything you would like to add in closing?
I think people should just focus on their current relationships and remember that there is a goal, right? To have a beautiful relationship, to have a beautiful marriage. And it's very important that we keep our emotional, mental space ready to receive it, you know, so that we're not having situationships that may hamper or may affect, you know, the amazing things, you know, God has in store for us.
Yes. Thank you so much, everybody, for being a part of this episode. We hope you join us for the next one. And if this is the first time you are catching up with us, please do make sure that you watch every other episode, or listen to, depending on where you're getting this from, every other episode that has been made available to you. And please convince everybody that loves you because of your money to subscribe to our podcast. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your week. And bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.